Today I'm going to do a crazy video, and I'm going to do it in two parts. And the second part is for Patreons and paying subscribers, because I want to give something back to them. But I have a little problem with the PayPal subscribers, because I'm trying to find how I can get an individual block list of email addresses so I can send links to. I'll work that one out. So, Patreon, that's really easy. I can just post the video on there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the video engine out of the 300 TDI. What? Yes, I'm going to take the engine out. I'm not happy with the gearbox in it, the second gear crunch. And that's going to be another big video, because I rebuilt that gearbox and the second gear crunches, and I don't understand why, because it didn't before. That's the worst part about it. So what did I do wrong? Because I put new synchros in. Now if you cast your mind back a little way, the synchros, I had a problem with fifth gear. It was too big, it wouldn't go in, if you can remember, and people were saying, oh, file the teeth and stuff like that. So forget it. I'm going to use that video later, so let's forget about that. But I'm going to pull the engine out, because I found out that when it's on my own, it's easy to pull the engine out and then drop the gearbox and transfer down in one vertically. Honestly, it's like a 10-minute job once the engine's out. But I thought to myself, I've never done a video taking an engine out completely out of a 300 TDI, start to finish. So it's a quiet day, it's a quiet week actually. It's sweating like a pig because it's really humid. But I thought, why not? Deborah and I cleaned out the garage yesterday. It's spotless. You could eat your you could eat your food off this floor. It's lovely and clean now. So it's a bit of an incentive. And also somebody wants to buy the truck, so there we go. So we can kill two birds with one stone. But this part of the video is about what tools do you need to get an engine out. Ah, that's interesting, isn't it? Here we are. Now I'm going to go through these things, you know, like one by one. But this is basically all you need. Look, we'll go start down there. There's a set of spanners and sockets, impact, you name it. So I'm not going to hold them up one by one and go through them and explain what you need and why. The 300 TDI is predominantly held together with nuts and bolts, as we know, and most of them are these things here. Flange-headed bolts. Don't we love them? This would have been a 13mm head, and they've reduced it now to a 10mm head. This is the most common ones we see. But it's got access to put a big washer on it, so it's good and it's bad. The problem is, you should never loosen them off with a general ring spanner. Why? It doesn't make any sense, Mike. Because you can round them off really easy when they're tight. You should always use a single hex, like a socket like this. Now unfortunately I don't think they do any spanners, well, probably Snap-on do them, but with a single hex, so you get that maximum surface area contact on these bolts. Once you've cracked them off and they're already off, then you can lace into them with that. So that's one top tip, how to get bolts out. So sockets, what do you need for sockets? Well, I've got through nearly all my jobs with a set of quarter drive deep sockets. These are DeWalt. I got them on special and I got a DeWalt ratchet to go with it. These have been absolutely bulletproof. This little set goes from, what's it now, 5mm up to 14mm. It's got everything I need, even 12mm, which we usually throw away because there's nothing 12mm on a Land Rover, Honda or something like that maybe. Little ratchet, not little ratchet, a little extension bar. Make sure it's got some knurling on. These are really handy, because there's nothing worse than trying to get a spanner out with a socket out with oily hands and it's slipping around. Get them with when they're knurled. Now I've had these tools for donkey's years, and I'm sure that there are some better ones. And these have got some knurling on the bottom, but it's as much good as a glass eye. So that's the spanners taken care of. The only open-ended spanners you really need, two 14mm spanners to get the fuel pipes off. That's it. Then they usually whiz off with your fingers. you know, but access is very limited, so you only need some kind of small spanners, and if you're really stuck, you can grind the ends off here a little bit to get them into the top of the fuel pump. So that's handy. What else have we got? A couple of pair of pliers. You don't really need pliers all that much, just to pull split pins out and things like this, or shonky hose clips. That's all I ever use. Longer sockets, 3/8. Now this is a crucial one. I have 2 sets of 3/8 here. I got them cheap, and they're okay. We shouldn't really use them with an impact gun. I do, so put some glasses on. But the bolts around the bell housing are a nightmare sometimes. They're either 17mm or 15mm. Now a lot of people have problems and struggles trying to get the bell housing bolts off, and they're cussing and swearing. I'll tell you a little tip. All I use now is these 2 impact guns here. That's it. I can get that engine out in 5 minutes with this. It's a DeWalt one. It was on special. It was cheap. The batteries last for years. It's not like a Milwaukee. It's an affordable little thing. I don't get any promotion from DeWalt, but it's been tough as nails for me. But you've got to use it in conjunction with some other bits and pieces, and that is the key. Well, it's a socket really, but it's a swivel socket. But unlike a universal socket, these will go in a nice action when you're turning them. They don't jump like a universal joint ones. They're bloody awful. But believe me, you've got a 15mm. Where's a 15mm socket? I could put anything on it, you wouldn't know, would you? 15mm socket, or if your access is limited, a deeper socket. Notice you've already got a swivel, and then these little ball-ended sockets here are great, because look at the angles you get in. Then if you want to put another one on, you're getting really down, get with it. Look at the angle you can turn that with, look. See, I'm keeping that still. Now if a bolt's really tight, you can use your socket with an extension bar on. Don't let Mastercraft tell you that, because when I go back and take them back, they're broken. They won't give me any money back. But even if you haven't got a gun, that's going to get all those bell housing bolts out. The only ones you have to get out by hand are the ones on the top. There's about 4, maybe 5 at the very top. You have to get out with a spanner, but the really difficult ones that's tight to the bell housing, dream. Honestly, it'll save you hours. What's the other little impact I've got here? You've seen me use this time and time again. Bloody hell, this is one of the best things I've ever bought. It's an old brush motor, but you see, they're for a quarter drive, screwdriver bits and things like this. They're for construction, really. But you can see, I built this workshop with this. So, I mean, that's how good it is. It's on its like 5th set of batteries now. But good screwdrivers, you can get in little access that got some lights on it. Not that they work, they're all gummed up now. Well, they're not too bad. I think these are finished. Oh yeah, look at them, they're done. Not that you need them. But you can use this in conjunction with a lot of other things. And one of my top tips for you guys to get, believe it or not, I won't get them all out, because you buy them in a set, these things. Little sockets that go into your gun, like that. Now these are long reach ones. These are okay if a bolt's not, or anything's not too difficult to unscrew, because the longer the shaft, the more torque's in it, and it'll twist, and this gun will chatter away. You won't get them out. So that's why sometimes you need these ones, the short ones. Okay, these will get anything out. And these are brilliant when it comes to these, because you've got, this is 6mm, standard size for Land Rover hose clamps. After 20 years or 25 years, I don't think many of them got the standard clamps on, but this makes your life so much easier. You can whiz round all the pipes with one socket. And then, because it's on a, you know, you can flick it backwards and forwards, I like to pull the hose clip back and tighten it back around the hose again when the pipe's off, so you know which hose clip went with which hose instead of throwing them all in a box. All right, these are off Amazon. The long ones are off Amazon too. Honestly, they're very cheap. Oh, wait a minute, I'll go. Sorry about that, somebody wants to borrow my compressor. Yeah, where was I? Yeah, you can whiz round all your nuts and bolts, or all your hose clips in seconds with that. So that's a good tool. But there also exists an even better set of bits and pieces, like this. Now this is like a 1/4 inch hex that goes into your gun, but it's also got a square quarter drive on the other end. And that means that sometimes you get studs, nuts and studs, like for example your speedo drive, that those sockets here, wait a minute, they're too shallow, all right? So you get a little adapter like this, and you can get the ones with the studs and the nuts off. You understand? Because when the stud's really long, you can't get these in. The downside about these is it's supposed to have a magnet in them. Well, that's okay, I suppose. But usually the magnet comes out. Also, if it has got the magnet in, it gets full of filings and bits like that, you know what I mean? So then you can't get it in. Socket, that is. So that's that. Like I say, a variety of bits, screwdriver bits. I never use flat bits in these guns because they always jump out. To get your grill off, your griller. This is what's that, a number? I think that's a number 3, isn't it? Wait a minute. Oh, it's not marked. But I think this is a number 2 and this is number 3, or this is number 3 and this is number 4. I don't know, they do them different over here. But anyway, that's a regular socket, regular Phillips type thing, and that's your next biggest one. Phillips, pff, who cares? I don't care. Phillips, what's the other thing they have? Phillips and posi drive. We don't have posi drive, it's a waste of time. Now, next thing, which you might catch a crab on. I'm only talking about taking the radiator out now. You know, I usually take the radiator out to take the engine out. This is the nut size. Now, it is actually 15/16. There, I'm not calling me a liar, it's 15/16. But sometimes they can be tight. But this spanner I've got here, 15/16, is far too long. So I had a 22mm here that I never actually found anything that's 22mm on the car, and I ground it to fit that socket. Sometimes we do things like that. And one of these modifications I'm going to do is put a dog leg in this one so you can get it closer. This is too further away from the radiator, should I say, because this is too close. But that's I made that years ago and it's worked fine. Other spanners. Oh, let's have a look at this one. To get the fan off. 32mm. This was a blue point. Was this a blue point? It was a snap-on-y one. But as you can see, it's sort of getting a bit worn out now. Very thin. Got the crank handle on. You really need one of these to get the fan off. Because if you can't get the fan off, if you can't get the cowling off, if you can't get the cowling off, you can't get the bloody radiator out. Well, I suppose you could do. What I did, as you've seen me on other videos, when I get tight into a tight spot with a fan, I bought from Prince's Auto, our favourite auto shop in Canada, a 32mm key. See? This was about $7. It was cheap. And what I did was, I did in a previous video, I warmed up the crank end and straightened it out so I can get the gearbox plugs out with one end. And this is ground down from being really, really thick to something that's, well, you can see the difference in thickness, look. These spin round, these bloody rubbish, these things, but you know, like I say, but these are a bit better metal, even from China. But in conjunction with this paddly type tool to lock the pulley whilst you get your bolt out is brilliant. You can crack them off in next to no time. There's no need for heat or WD-40 or anything like that. They'll just spin right off, so that's good. Almost last, I think. The pipe off the power steering pump. This is a bit sort of a controversial one. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you're going to put a 300 TDI back in, take it out and put it back in again, I don't disconnect the pipes. All I do is take the pump off the front, if you see what I mean. I just pop the pump off, push it to one side, leave the pipes on, pull the engine out. Easy peasy. If you don't want to do that, it's the pipe, one hose is held on, the return hose is held on with a screwdriver, with a hose clip. So you need a screwdriver or one of those little sockets, or it's 5/8 to get the nut off the pipe. There are inch sizes, and it's the same as the top of the power steering box. If you want to change the hoses, 5/8 and 9/16. If you get really stuck like I have in the past, this little set here was a godsend to get those pipes off. Oh, honestly, they've saved my skin a time or two as well. You can see how thick they are. They were like $21 from Amazon. They're Crescent, which is a good manufacturer, but made in China. But they're good. You know, you won't break those type of things. But these are the best ones I've ever had. I'm not bragging, they are really good. I've had ones that's been really thin and they just spin round and open up, but these have been really good. And if you want to get the pipes off your power steering box, for example, if you're really feeling brave, you can put a 3/8 extension bar in there and just go straight down instead of going on a side, because there's very limited room. Discos, Range Rovers, you've got bags of room because the wing's in a different place. But Defenders, set of them. What else? Oh yes, here, I'm looking at this now. The plug that holds your radiator bung in at the top, your filler bung, and the thermostat housing bung is 13/16, which is the same size as a regular old socket. This is my dad's socket thing for taking spark plugs out. Is it Metco, I think it is. I think it's a Metco one. They were good tools in them days. It must be because I've still got it. However, a lot of people change those awful plastic things to these things here, these brass plugs. Now these are okay. When you get one, make sure it comes with an O-ring, because the O-ring's a bit of a funny size. But this one came with an O-ring, so I'm not too bothered. And I replace all the brass plugs with these. The actual socket size is 21mm. Nice snug fit. You won't round it off, and then you can really tighten it up so the next person who takes it out thinks cursing and swearing because he hasn't got a 21mm socket. I think that's the same size as my Yaris wheel nut. Anyway, that's that. Again, flat blade, Phillips, and a little podgy bar. What's this for? This comes in really handy when you're putting the throttle cable back on. You can line up the cable and put the pin in. I know it sounds stupid, but it really does help. So that's about it. I'm sure there's something I've forgotten. Let me have a think. Yeah, there was something else. The technique I use for draining the radiators off is kind of unusual. I use a syringe like this. They come in the garden, you can pick them up really cheap. I don't use it for putting oil in or anything like that, but you undo the bung off the radiator. You can stick this right down into your radiator. You can see it's leaking out already. Pull out and suck out as much coolant as you can, because if you've got regular coolant and you want to use it again, this is a great tool, because the 300 TDI didn't come with a drain bung on the bottom of the radiator. It's got a drain bung on the block, but that's a bugger to get to because it just sprays water everywhere, alright, or coolant everywhere. So what I do is take the bung out, stuff this down, suck out as much, because there's a little stop halfway down the radiator as a baffle, so you can't go much further. But that said, once you've got that amount of coolant down, you'll see that your expansion tank is almost empty. This is a good thing, because then you can undo the hose off the bottom, put a bung in it, and direct that hose to your bucket at the bottom and drain everything off, and then you'll have no problems at all. And then you can save all your coolant. Because my God, why didn't they put a tap on instead of the bung on the side of the block, where you could push a little rubber hose off and save all your coolant? Anyway, that's Land Rovers for you. By doing that, you'll have a lot of fun. Honestly, you don't need a great big... And look at it, none of it is snap-on. Most of it's like Canadian Tire or Princess Auto or Amazon. You don't need a big budget. And these tools you can use for all sorts of stuff. I mean, look, that's it. Put them in a shopping bag, couldn't you? But that's it. You can really do without a lot of things. Ratcheting spanners are nice, but I found on the bell housings they're a little too broad to get in. They're a bit of a pain. So I just crank them by hand, you know. But apart from that, no, they're a nice job to do. That's why I like them, because they're easy. Why make life difficult? All right, that's the tools. Like I say, if anybody can think how you can make a list of email addresses where I can contact all my paying PayPal subscribers, let me know. I couldn't find anything on PayPal how to do it. But I'd really like some feedback on that one, because I'd like to give something back, you know, to people who've paid, and I think this would be a nice little project for, you know, for people to understand how things are done and how quick you can do it too. See ya.